Good evening to all the participants for today's presentation. On behalf of Axis Mutual Fund and एनजे इंडिया इन्वेस्ट मैं दिवेश कक्कड़ आप सभी का स्वागत करता हूं आज के इस प्रेजेंटेशन में। हमारे जो आज का प्रेजेंटेशन है वो मिस्टर हरिहरन देने वाले हैं। तो बिफोर वी स्टार्ट द प्रेजेंटेशन मैं उनका परिचय देता हूं। So Mr. Hariharan is having more than 13 years of experience in financial service industry across sales management and training. He has done his MBA in marketing. He is a certified financial planner from FPSB India. He is also a chartered wealth manager from AFM USA. He has also done his NLP and is a licensed practitioner from Richard Bandler USA. He is a blogger on personal finance and also writes articles on personal finance. He has also written a book uh, by name Money Muni, the book that explains investment through simple short stories. He has conducted more than 460 workshops on financial planning, goal planning, retirement planning for families across the country, spanning more than 50,000 investors. He has also conducted more than 1,200 sessions on equity, debt, macroeconomics, financial planning, and using of power of subconscious mind, etc., for more than 35,000 mutual fund distributors. So, without taking much time, I would invite Mr. Hariharan to take forward the presentation. Sir, please.
Thank you, Divesh ji. Good evening, all of you. Welcome all of you to this session, which is titled as "Buy or Buy." Okay. Let me just. I hope this is visible to all of you. Divesh ji, can you just confirm it is visible? The slide is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Okay. Thanks. So, good evening once again. Welcome to this session, "Buy or Buy." What should investors do? So, if you look at these words, "buy" or "buy," they are pronounced in the same way, but the spelling is different and the meaning is very different, especially when it comes to investments. Now, why do we look at this particular session? Because markets are at very high levels, and this is what a lot of us believe, and we have been seeing that the markets have been continuously reaching or touching very high levels, right? And therefore, the question that comes to most of our mind is, what should I do now as an investor? Should I book the profits? क्या मार्केट और ऊपर चलता जाएगा? Will the markets go down? I'm running my SIPs. So my SIPs are entering into markets which are at high levels. So is it advisable to continue my SIPs? So these are common questions that we have been getting, over the last few months. And therefore we said, let us do this session, where we try and explain what should an investor do in this situation. Now, please let me tell you, I will not टॉक टू मच टेक्निकल लैंग्वेज मैं बहुत ही सिंपल लैंग्वेज का इस्तेमाल करूंगा कोशिश करूंगा कि बहुत ही सिंपल लैंग्वेज में we will try and understand what is it that we are supposed to do. Now, during the course of my session, I will have a few slides, where I will ask you certain questions. Please feel free to respond to those questions. आपका response important है because that will help me to gauge what is the mindset, in terms of how do we approach investments, right? So, so let me start this session. Let me ask a very simple question to all of you. Assume करिए कि आप एक मॉल में जाते हो, आप देखते हो मॉल में आपके सामने दो ब्रांड के दही हैं. There are two yogurts. The first yogurt has a label which says 1% fat. The second yogurt has a label which says 99% fat free. So one is option A, the other is option B. Which one will you choose? आप कौन से योगर्ट को सेलेक्ट करोगे कौन से दही को आप सेलेक्ट करोगे विल यू सेलेक्ट ए और विल यू सेलेक्ट बी यू कैन पुट इट इन द क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर सेशन लिंक and we will try and seek your responses. So just type A or B. So 1% fat or 99% fat free, which one will you choose? Divesh, have you got any responses?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. So I hope the question is clear and you are able to access the Q&A link where you can type your answers. The question is very simple. You have gone to a mall, you find two types of yogurts which is present in front of your eyes. One of the yogurt has a label which is 1% fat. The other yogurt has a label which says 99% fat free. Which one will you choose?
But there are mix of answers. Some are saying A
Okay.
and some are saying B.
Okay, great. Okay. So fantastic. Thank you first of all for your participation. इसको थोड़ा ध्यान से समझते हैं. If you look at it, both these yogurts are the same. Yes or no? So when the first yogurt says it is 1% fat, यानी कि इस दही में 1% चर्बी है. 1% fat is there. The second yogurt says it is 99% fat free, which means there is again 1% fat in this yogurt. So both the products are exactly the same. Lot of people tend to pick the one which is a label of 99% fat free. ये नॉर्मल टेंडेंसी है लोगों का कि वो 99% फैट फ्री वाला योगर्ट पिकअप कर लेंगे. Now, why do we do this? There's a reason to it. Okay, and the decision जो हमने लिया अभी instantaneously, option A और option B, is basis what is presented to us. हमारे सामने उस चीज को कैसे पोजीशन किया गया है decides what kind of behavior I will demonstrate. करेक्ट. हमारे सामने जो चीज कैसे प्रेजेंट की जाती है वो डिसाइड करता है कि हम उस चीज को लेंगे कि नहीं लेंगे. And that is what we are seeing here, which is exactly what I want to explain now in the market, because over the last 4 months, 5 months now, we have seen markets are continuously going up. And everywhere we are hearing this news or information rather that markets have reached very high levels. लाइफ टाइम हाई लेवल्स टच कर दिया है मार्केट ने. बिल्कुल सही है, मार्केट ने लाइफ टाइम हाई लेवल्स टच किया है. बट एवरीबडी इज सेइंग इन द मार्केट दैट मार्केट्स हैव गिवन रिटर्न्स ऑफ 85%, 95%, almost 100%. I would say this information of 85%, 95%, 100% is only partly correct, because the other side of the coin nobody is telling us. Everywhere there is a noise कि बाजार तेजी में है, बाजार बढ़ता ही जा रहा है, बढ़ता ही जा रहा है, इतना प्रतिशत रिटर्न आया, जिसके कारण lot of people have brought it into their mind कि the market has become very expensive, the valuations are very high, and therefore I should come out of the market, therefore I should redeem my mutual fund investments. Right? Now let me give you some perspective. Markets have bounced by 85%, which means what? If you remember, January 2020, if you would have invested 100 rupees in the equity market, so the example I'm taking is of Sensex. अगर आपने 100 रुपए जनवरी 1 2020 को निवेश किए होते तब तक तो ठीक था, कोविड था, लेकिन nobody was talking too much about it. Suddenly in the month of March, the lockdown got announced and the market fell. On 23rd March 2020, the market fell to the lowest point. That point in time, this 100 rupees became 62 rupees, loss of 38%. Okay. From that point onwards, till December 2020, the market started going up again. Right. So from 62, it bounced by 85%, which means that 85% jump is on 62 rupees, not on 100 rupees. So when you calculate 85% on 62, it becomes 115 rupees. सो नेट नेट आपके पूरे साल में जनवरी से दिसंबर 2020 में योर रिटर्न्स हैव बीन 15%. बट नोबडी इज टेलिंग अस दैट. एवरीबडी इज सेइंग 85%, 90% bounce back, 100%. If you now look at today's data point, we are almost at 97% bounce back from March 2020 levels. And when you hear such levels, you feel worried कि market अभी टूटेगा, markets will collapse, market will fall, let me come out of it. So 85% is also correct, but equally important is the information that market has delivered only 15% returns in the entire last year. As equity investors, don't we expect 12-14% returns every year? That is what we have got. So there's no point worrying about कि इतना बाजार बढ़ गया है, बहुत ज्यादा हो गया वैल्यूएशन, oh I am worried. Don't worry. Getting the point? So if you put things in perspective, markets have delivered 15% returns only last year. So it is not a very huge percentage return that you've actually got. So this is what we call as separating noise versus information. Very important. It is like that example which we saw. So what is presented to you? Everywhere people are presenting that 85-90% data to you. But the fact is, it is only 15-16% returns. So please pay attention to those information which is relevant and important. Oh, I hope it is clear to all of you, right? Great. So let's move ahead. Now, I want all of you to sort of guess. So this is some tables that you're seeing. What you see at the bottom is decades. Okay, dashak hai 1980 to 1990 ka dashak. So that's the decade of 10 years. And there are some numbers on the top 200, 220, 220, 250, and so on. I want you to guess. What do you think are these numbers on the top? आपके हिसाब से ऊपर जो नंबर लिखा है वो क्या हो सकता है? आप गेस करिए, बिंदास लगाइए तुक्का. Don't worry about what you're saying. Your names will not be taken out. बिंदास आपके हिसाब से लिखिए, आपको क्या लगता है कि ऊपर के जो आंकड़े हैं 200, 220, 200, 250, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, what are these numbers? What you see in the bottom is decades, 10 years का decades. So just try and put it in the link and put your responses. Let us see what kind of responses we get. Go ahead, Bindas. Go ahead and put it in the Q&A link. Divesh, if you get any responses, let me know.
Waiting, sir.
So just do guesswork. Don't worry whether it is right or wrong. Okay, no responses, I presume.
Not yet, sir.
Okay, no issues. So let me explain what it is. So typically, when we look at these numbers and you see this bottom, these are decades, 10-year gaps. This data has nothing to do with markets. It has nothing to do with investments. What these numbers are? These are nothing but average scores of teams batting first in a one-day international match across decades. So, for example, 1980, 1990, the average batting score was 200 to 220 runs, which means if I bat first as a team and I scored 220 runs, I was almost certain to win the match. That amount of runs was enough to win the match. But as you see the decades go ahead, when you move to 2001, 2010, the average score became 250 to 280, which means if I have to fight the match, I should score at least 250, 270, 280 runs, right? So what you see over decades, as time passes by, the average scores have gone up. Today, if you look at 2021, some team is batting in one-day international match and they score 240 runs. You can safely assume that they will lose the match, right? That's how the trends have. So numbers have increased, average scores have increased. There have been instances in the past where teams have scored more than 400 also, and some teams have chased 400 also successfully. Getting it? तो एक जमाने में हमको लगता था 250 रन मतलब बहुत ज्यादा हो गए. Today that 250 runs is immaterial, right? So today unless a team scores 300, 320, it is difficult to defend those targets. Similarly in investments, Sensex started in 1980 with a base of 100, right? And when it reached 1000, it was a milestone for Sensex. Then it reached 10,000, very big milestone. And every time a milestone is reached, it is the highest level at that point in time. So it was a lifetime high, which means at that point in time it was a lifetime high. So today 10,000 is not the lifetime high for Sensex. Getting it? So just as the average scores have gone up, same has happened with Sensex. 10,000 became 15, 15 became 20, 25, 30, 35, 50 today. And if you are now worried and say, oh, it has reached 50, so somebody at 25 also felt, oh, 25 is the peak. इसके ऊपर क्या जाएगा Sensex? But today it has reached 50. So same like one-day international matches, what was considered as a very good score 20, 30 years back is no longer a good score today. Similarly, in Sensex and equities and market, what was a lifetime I at some point in time is no longer the lifetime I today. So 51,000 is perhaps the lifetime I today. Monday, if the market opens and reaches 52, that 51 is no longer high lifetime I, right? I hope you're getting the point. So don't worry about absolute numbers. कि 50 हो गया, 51 हो गया, अब क्या होगा? Don't worry about it. Right? I will explain what are we supposed to do. But this is what the backdrop or the background that I want to set in terms of how our mind works. Now, let's go and do a flashback. February 2020. Did anybody know whether the markets will fall in March 2020? The clear answer is no. किसी को नहीं पता था कि मार्च में 2020 में मार्केट टूटने वाला है. Similarly, when the bounce back started, nobody knew that the market is going to go up so fast. Despite the fact that across the history of markets, whenever there have been huge corrections to the tune of 20, 30%, there has been a significant bounce back in the immediate 6 to 12 months time. And this is historically shown many times whenever the markets have corrected. But the point is, nobody knew when that bounce back is going to happen. Everybody knew that markets will bounce back. But when, nobody knew. Getting it? Similarly, if you ask me today, will the markets continue to go up from 51 to 55 or 60, or will the markets come to 45, 40, 30? The clear answer is nobody knows. किसी को नहीं पता है कि कल बाजार में क्या होने वाला है, including experts. And I'm going to give you some examples here. And why I'm telling you it's very, very important. So there are two important investment banking firms, very reputed firms. One is Morgan Stanley, the other is Goldman Sachs. Now, both of them, when the COVID was at its peak level in India, was very, very pessimistic about India. बोले इंडिया में कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. Government is not doing enough in terms of stimulus package. So they were pessimistic. They said that we don't expect Sensex. I'll just read out what Morgan Stanley said in one of its report. It said that June 2021, Sensex will not be about 37,300. Correct? After the bounce back started, somewhere in the month of October, they issued a new statement. And they said, now we are very optimistic about India. And we are optimistic that the markets will bounce back. And they gave a new target of 50,000 Sensex by December 2021. Mind you, 50,000 Sensex, December 2021. We are in Feb 2021. And we have already seen Sensex crossing 51. What I'm trying to say, please understand, nobody knows what is going to happen in the market. And therefore, my sincere request to all of you, it is important that you track what is happening. It is important to know what is happening in India, what is happening in the markets. उतना information आपको लेना है, लीजिए. Watch televisions, look at business channels, but please, for God's sake, do not buy what somebody says in terms of index values. What I try to say is, कल कोई बाजार में आता है, न्यूज चैनल में आता है, आपको बोलता है कि मुझे लग रहा है निफ्टी 1 लाख पे जाएगा. ऐसे कुछ लोग बोल के गए हैं. People have said this in the past, a few years back, that I see Nifty at 1 lakh levels. When they come and talk on news channels, business channels, now we feel that they are saying the truth. But the fact is they also don't know. So do not go by what they are saying in terms of numbers. कि ये stock का price इतना हो जाएगा, this stock will become 3 times. Don't buy those stories. Okay? So be very careful about what you watch on television. Do not fall prey to all such instances. So if you were to go by Morgan Stanley report, lot of people would have exited, and that is what a lot of people did. काफी लोगों ने अपने म्यूचुअल फंड रिडेम्पशंस कर दिए थे जैसे बाजार ऊपर को चढ़ना स्टार्ट हो गया. They felt 40 was the highest. They exited. 40 became 50. If you ask, nobody knew it whether it is going to become 50. But in hindsight, those people have lost the opportunity. Correct? That's what is important. So now the question is, if you are saying that nobody knows anything, किसी को नहीं पता है बाजार में क्या होने वाला है, तो मुझे क्या करना है? As an investor, what is it that I am supposed to do? Now, when we say supposed to do means an action, right? Do का मतलब है action, and action is nothing but behavior. So behavior is what we do. Behavior is an action, and whenever there is an action, it is essentially a decision. Very simple. Let me explain this. Decision क्या है? So many of you are attending this session today, right? So you took a decision to attend this session. Lot of people might have got the link to attend this session. They took a decision not to attend the session. So both ways, it is a decision whether to attend or not to attend, whether to do something, not do anything, is a decision that you and I take every day. Right? Now let us see when we take decisions, what kind of decisions and how does our mind trick us when we take decisions. Okay, so I'm going to ask one simple question. Okay, I want all of you to respond, try and respond to this question. The question is, I give you 100 rupees today, or I say we meet next Saturday again, and I will give you 101 rupee next Saturday. So 100 today, 101 next week. Which one will you choose? Just type 100 or 101. Okay? सिचुएशन आपको देता हूं. पहला सिचुएशन ये है कि मैं आज आपको 100 रुपए देता हूं, या मैं बोलता हूं हम अगले सप्ताह मिलते हैं वापस, उस वक्त मैं आपको 101 रुपए देता हूं. आप क्या चूज करोगे? 100 रुपए आज या 101 रुपए अगले हफ्ते? आपको सिर्फ 100 या 101 टाइप करना है. जस्ट टाइप 100 और 101 and let us see what kind of responses we get.
Sir, first 10 responses I have received. Out of that, 7 have said 100 and 3 have said 101.
Okay, fantastic, very good. And this is typically what people pick it up. So normal response हो ये 75, 80, 85, in fact 90% people select 100 rupees today versus 101 next week. And there's a reason to it. देखो कैसे दिमाग चलता है. Let us see how the mind works. If you choose 100, why people choose 100 today is that I am getting 101 next week, but next week is uncertain. There is no guarantee that Hari will come again and he will pay that 101 rupees. I am getting 100, so let us take what is available today. Right? This is called as instant gratification. जिसको हम बोलते हैं हिंदी में तुरंत संतुष्टि. Right? Because I am getting it today itself, I feel happy about it. उस पैसे को मैं खर्च कर सकता हूं. Who will wait till 101 for next week? क्या भरोसा अगले हफ्ते का? That is why most people select 100. So people who have selected 100, just do a very simple calculation for yourself and see. Instead of 100, I am giving 101 next week. So I am giving you 1 rupee extra next week, which means I am paying you 1% in 1 week. इसको ध्यान से समझना. Please understand this. I am paying you 1% in 1 week. What is my annual return? There are 52 weeks. So my annual return is 52%. So people who have selected 101 have selected 52% returns. And people who have selected 100 have foregone that 52% returns, right? So this is how mind works. Now, this 100 versus 101 that we chose, and 70, 80, 90% people choose 100. This is an emotional decision that we take, right? Because if it was logical, you would have selected 101. I hope you're getting the point. अगर आप लॉजिकली सोचते तो आप 101 रुपए को सिलेक्ट करते. आपने 100 सेलेक्ट किया है. व्हाई? बिकॉज इमोशंस आपके दिमाग में प्ले करते हैं. ऑल सेड एंड डन, ऑल ऑफ अस एज ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर इमोशनल इन नेचर. हम भले ही कितने भी बड़े आदमी हो जाएं, कितने भी बड़े पोजीशन में काम करें, कहीं ना कहीं देयर इज एन इमोशन इनसाइड ऑल ऑफ अस. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम स्टडीज सजेस्ट दैट वी यूज इमोशंस टू टेक डिसीजंस. 95% of decisions that you and I take are emotional in nature. And even in investments, we take those emotional decisions. Getting it? But when we take emotional decisions in investments, there's a big impact of those decisions. We will try and understand how it works. Right? Now, one of those emotional decisions is redemption, which a lot of people have done in the last few months. Now understand this very clearly. Redemption is also an emotional decision. Why? Why is this redemption happening today? Because markets have gone up to very high levels. I am having mutual fund investments. I have seen profit in my portfolio. After so many months or years, मेरे पोर्टफोलियो में प्रॉफिट दिखाई दे रहा है. But the moment there is a profit, there is a worry that happens inside my mind. Today I am seeing profits. Tomorrow what will happen? कल पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा. The profits can come down, the markets can come down, and my profits can come down. Possible that I may even go back to losses. Therefore, you feel, let me grab the opportunity. Whatever profits I'm getting, let me remove it. Now, let us understand what happens with those money that you redeem. That money comes to your savings account. And what do you do with that money? उस पैसों के साथ आप क्या करते हो? 98% of the people who redeem the money spend their money. They may buy a bigger LCD, 52-inch LCD. They may buy a four-wheeler. They may buy a bigger four-wheeler. They may buy a two-wheeler, etc., etc. So the fact of the matter is, we will end up spending that money which we have redeemed. I am sure you will agree with me on this. Only 2% of the individuals will perhaps save and continue to hold that money in their account. Majority of us will spend it. Now understand this. When we make investments saying that this investment is for my retirement. ये पैसे मेरे बच्चे के पढ़ाई के लिए है. This is for my child's education. But when you redeem the money and you have spent it, what happens to your goal? What happens to your child's education? What happens to your retirement? These are things that we need to understand, right? So redemption is an emotional decision, and the most predominant emotion that is playing at that point in time is fear, doubt. When the markets are falling, same emotions play. That the markets are falling continuously, let me redeem because it may continue to fall further. So those emotions of fear play in your mind, and you take an emotional decision. Getting it? I will illustrate how this impacts your overall investments with an illustration. This is a story of two friends, Ram and Shyam. Both are very close friends. Okay? Both of them are 30 years old, and they decide that they have to plan for their retirement at the age of 60. So they say that we will start doing a SIP for the next 30 years in a mutual fund. And both of them start their SIPs with 10,000 rupees every month. Ram continues his investments for 30 years. Not a single SIP is skipped, not a single installment is skipped. Religiously for the next 30 years, Ram continues to invest 10,000 rupees every month. Let us assume the mutual fund gives a return of 12% per annum. So Ram gets a return of a value of 3.24 crores at the end of 30 years. Ram does not withdraw a single penny out of it. एक भी पैसा उन्होंने withdraw नहीं किया. His friend Shyam also starts 10,000 rupees SIP on the same day, and he also does a SIP for 30 years in the same mutual fund scheme. But Shyam gets married over the period of time, and his wife keeps on asking him to make redemptions, forces him to make withdrawals from the investment. Right? Now please remember, Shyam does not skip any investment. उसने भी पूरा SIP भरा उसका, एक भी skip नहीं किया उसने. लेकिन बीच बीच में वो पैसे निकालता जाता है. क्यों? बिकॉज घर पे एसी लगानी है, गाड़ी खरीदनी है, बड़ा घर खरीदना है, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. Right? Now the total withdrawals that Shyam does in 30 years is 33 lakhs. Over the period of 30 years, he makes a withdrawal of 33 lakhs. Small amount if you look at 30 years. But let us see the impact of this on his retirement corpus. You will be surprised that Shyam is able to generate a corpus of only 1.28 crores. Almost 2 crores less than what Ram has got. You see the impact now? The compounding is gone. बीच बीच में विड्रॉवल आप करोगे तो आपके जो लाइफ के आर्थिक लक्ष्य हैं जिसके लिए आपने निवेश किया था वो आप भूल जाओ. So Shyam will never be able to take retirement at the age of 60. Getting it? So you and I might feel I am only withdrawing 50,000 rupees. क्या फर्क पड़ता है? But your goal of child education, retirement can go for that toss. So please, for God's sake, do not make withdrawals unless your financial goal is achieved. Provided you have invested for that financial goal, please continue to make those investments and stay for that period of time. Right? I hope that illustration explains very clearly. Now, I said that emotion is something that plays inside our mind, and I said redemption is an emotional decision. Now, if you look at this is nothing but Chakravyu. And I'm sure many of us would have seen this in Mahabharata, Chakravyu, right, where Abhimanyu gets killed inside this Chakravyu. I will not get into the story of Abhimanyu, etc., etc. But the fact is, if you look at the Chakravyu, the red dot is the target. This is where you're supposed to reach to fight. So अभिमन्यु का टारगेट था कि उसको रेड सर्कल के वहां पे जाना है so that he can go and fight the soldiers. But look at this entire Chakravyu. The design of the formation is such that it has multiple layers. Onion है ना कांदा. Onion has got layer after layer. So you remove one layer, there's another layer, and so on. Same happens in Chakravyu. And if you look at this, I want to reach the center, which is the red dot. I cannot go straight away because there are layers of soldiers who are forming this Chakravyu. And if I have to go on fighting against so many soldiers, there's a very high chance that I will get killed even before I reach the center. Right? But Abhimanyu had learned how to enter the Chakravyu. उसे पता था चक्रव्यूह के अंदर कैसे जाते हैं. जब वो अपने माता के गर्भ में था, सुभद्रा के गर्भ में उसने सीख लिया था. He understood how to enter the Chakravyu while he was still in the womb of his mother. But unfortunately, he did not know how to exit it. And I'm sure all of you know this, At the age of 16, at a very tender age of 16, Abhimanyu gets killed inside this Chakravyu because he does not know how to come out of it. Now, what does this have to do with investments? Entering mutual funds, starting a SIP in a mutual fund is very simple. You just have to do KYC, you have to give the check, and your SIP starts. Very simple to enter, right? Now you might say exiting is also very simple, sir. हम तो बटन दबा देते हैं, exit हो जाता है, redemption हो जाता है, right? But the problem is, if you exit your investments prematurely, just like Abhimanyu died a premature death, your investments will also die a premature death before reaching your financial goals. So that's very important, and that is what we saw in the earlier illustration. If you withdraw your money, you exit from the investment, your final financial goal will get impacted. Right? So investment entry is very simple, exit also very simple, but that simple exit has got implications. It has got huge impact, which we have already seen with the example of Ram and Shyam. Right? Okay. Therefore, what is it that I'm supposed to do? This is what we strongly suggest. Very important slide. So we have understood how withdrawal makes an impact, and we said that don't withdraw the money. Now I'm going to bifurcate and tell what set of investors should do what. So what we are clearly saying, irrespective of market level, is do not redeem. आपके investments को redeem मत करिए. If you do not have any goals in the immediate future, what do I mean by immediate future? In the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. If you don't have any goals, please do not redeem your investments. If you have a goal which is your child's education after 5 years, don't worry about markets today. Your goal is after 5 years. Let us worry about the market at that point in time. Okay, so if your goals are far long enough, do not touch your investments. Just because the markets are high does not mean you should end up redeeming your investments. Please remember, as long as your time horizon is long, which is 5, 10, 15, 20 years, market levels have no impact on your investments. And I will show one of the illustrations as I go forward. Now, if after all this also you feel that I still want to come out of equities, then I will give you one suggestion. Do not redeem from equity, because when you redeem, the money will come to savings account. And what happens when it comes to savings account, we have already seen. 98% people spend the money. Instead of that, you do a rebalancing, which is shift your money from equities into debt mutual funds. This is called as switch in mutual fund parlance. So for whom should you rebalance? Who are the people who should rebalance? People who have got goals in the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. So for example, if I'm going to get retired after 2 years and I have created this corpus, right? I'm worried that when the retirement comes after 2 years, what will happen to markets? In that case, such people can do a switch from equity to debt mutual funds. I repeat, do a switch, not redemption. And not for everybody, only for people jinke goals अगले कुछ महीने में या कुछ एक दो साल के अंदर आने वाले हैं, उन्हीं के लिए ये रिबैलेंसिंग करना है. Getting it? I hope it is clear. Please do not take a decision in haste. Do not take emotional decisions. You will end up impacting your portfolio. I hope it is very clear कि आपको क्या करना है. Very strict instructions. Do not redeem as long as your goals are 3-5 years and above. If your goals are in the immediate future, just do a switch from equity to debt. कैसे करते हैं, क्या करते हैं? People are there to guide you, right? All right. Now the second set of question is, all this is okay, but मेरा तो SIP चल रहा है और SIP में तो अभी बाजार ऊपर है, 50,000 पे, 51,000 पे है, तो मेरा SIP इस महंगे बाजार में जाएगा. Very common question. My SIP will go in this market which is at a very high level. My cost of units will go up. Correct? Now let me tell you why you should not get worried about that also. I will take the illustration of three friends. Now I will take you to January 1999. Okay, go back to January 1999, 1st January 1999. Three friends, Mr. Lucky, Mr. Unlucky, and Mr. Smart. तीनों दोस्त हैं. And 1st January, everybody takes a resolution that we will start SIPs and we will invest in equities. So these three friends take a resolution to start investments in in equities, and let's, for the sake of simplicity, assume that they invest in Sensex, which is the index. Okay, and they decide that every day that they invest, they will invest 1,000 rupees. हर दिन वो 1,000 रुपए निवेश करेंगे. So Mr. Smart says that I will invest every day, irrespective of what is happening in the market. मैं रोज इन्वेस्ट करूंगा 1,000 रुपए. Mr. Lucky says, my name is Lucky, so I will select the dates when markets have fallen, because मेरा नाम लकी है, तो जिस दिन बाजार गिरता है उसी दिन मैं निवेश करूंगा. So he selects 1,000 days, okay, which is the best 1,000 days to invest, because उस दिन बाजार गिरा है, तो आपने इन्वेस्ट किया तो आपको यूनिट ज्यादा मिलते हैं. Mr. Unlucky unfortunately makes investments only on those days when markets have gone up. जिस दिन बाजार ऊपर गया है उसी दिन उसने निवेश किया. बेचारा अनलकी पर्सन है, क्या करे. But he also invests for 1,000 days, and everybody is investing 1,000 rupees every day. So lucky and unlucky have invested 1,000 rupees for 1,000 days. So they have invested 10 lakh rupees. What is the value on 10th of February 2021? The value for lucky is that 10 lakhs has become 65.53 lakhs. And when you translate into annual returns, it is 13.5%. Look at unlucky. Unlucky ने उसी दिन बाजार में निवेश किया जब बाजार ऊपर था. Same as what we are facing today. Markets at high level, I am entering and investing. What will happen to my portfolio? Unlucky तो हर बाजार ऊपर में पैसे निवेश किए हैं. But despite that, look at this value. 10 lakhs is 64.58 lakhs. What is the difference between lucky and unlucky? Hardly anything. Hardly anything, despite the fact कि lucky is investing only on days when markets are fallen. उसके बावजूद कोई फर्क नहीं है पोर्टफोलियो वैल्यू में. The returns is 13.29%. Hardly any difference between lucky and unlucky. Mr. Smart has invested every day. बाजार ऊपर हो नीचे हो, he is continued to invest. He has invested 55 lakh rupees and his value is 3 crore rupees. What is his annual returns? 13.6%. So you look at this illustration. It's a very beautiful illustration which clearly tells us कि बाजार में टाइम करके कोई मतलब नहीं है. Keep on continuing your SIPs, just like Mr. Smart. Getting it? So whether the market is at high levels, low levels, please continue with your SIPs. In the long run, इसका कोई impact नहीं होता है कि आपने महंगे में खरीदा कि सस्ते में खरीदा, because the objective of SIP is that only, that you buy in both high levels and low levels, so the average becomes much lesser. Getting it? So please do not stop your SIPs. Do not get worried कि इस महंगे बाजार में SIP करना चाहिए कि नहीं करना चाहिए. बेफिक्र होकर आप करिए. Bindas. Okay. All right. Now there are few set of investors who are fence sitters. वो बोलते हैं let me keep on watching the market. Whenever the market falls, I will start a SIP. पक्का, sure. बाजार को टूटने दो, मैं खरीदूं, मैं SIP डाल दूंगा. So let's take an example. Mr. X is wanting to invest in equities. Okay, but he's worried that market is at very high levels today. तो वो बोलते हैं I will not invest now, I will wait, and as and when the market corrects, I will invest. Now let me tell you, all those people who are waiting for the correction to invest, I can give it to you in writing, they will never invest. वो कभी निवेश नहीं करेंगे. Because now, आप खुद सोच के देखिए, just take this situation for yourself. Market is at 50,000 levels. If markets corrects to 45, people who are not invested today and who have said they will invest when the market falls, do you think they will invest at 45? They will never, because now in their mind it will be, अभी 45 आया, अभी 40 आ जाएगा, 40 पे करता हूँ, I will invest at 40. They will not invest at 40 also. 40 will become 35. Oh, अभी तो सब negative news चल रहा है. Everywhere it is negative news. Everybody is saying markets are not doing well. So let me still wait and watch. These are the people who will continue to wait and watch. They will never invest. I can give it to you in writing. And this is purely out of my experience of the last 13 years. Right? So this example, I'm saying people who are still waiting, I will give you a solution for this. If you're still worried about starting an investment, I will give you a suggestion what you can do instead of waiting. I will introduce to you what is called as a systematic transfer plan. I'm sure many of you would have heard about this. It is less like just like SIP. The only difference is in a SIP, your money is going from savings account to a equity fund. Instead of that, I am saying put your money in a debt mutual fund. Instead of keeping in a savings account, put it in a debt mutual fund. And from there, you do a SIP into equity funds. When I say SIP, you can still wait and watch. Okay, you can do a transfer, which is a staggered investment, okay, into a equity. So this you can do by using STP. Now let me give you one illustration to explain how this can impact again your performance. So this is a story of a husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Snehal. Now the word snail means happiness. Huh? The word snail means happiness, but in their life they are very unhappy and they constantly fight with each other because their thought process are very different. Husband और wife का दोनों का thought process बहुत ही अलग है, right? So Mr. Snail and Mrs. Snail have a different thought process in investments also. Now let us see how it works. Mr. Snail he's got 10 lakh rupees with him and he wants to invest in equity markets, but he is worried about the high levels of the market. So what does he do? He puts 10 lakh rupees in a debt mutual fund. In this case, I have taken an example of a ultra short fund. Okay, ultra short fund. He puts the 10 lakh rupees in that ultra short fund, and from there he does a SIP of 10,000 rupees into a mid cap fund. Okay, Mrs. Snail continues to keep her money in savings account, and she does a SIP into mid cap fund from the savings account, which is normally what most people do. Now, what is the difference in the returns from September 2018 till 31st Jan 2021? So this is a difference. This is almost 24 plus 3, almost 27 months or 28 months performance. You look at it, Mr. Snail, who has done a STP from ultra short fund to a mid cap fund, has got a annual return of almost 9%. Mrs. Snail, who does SIP in a traditional way from savings account to mid cap fund, same day the SIP is going, has got 6.4%. So what I'm trying to say is people who are worried about high levels of market were willing to start SIPs after 3 months or 6 months, or when the market is correcting, put your money or park your money in a ultra short term fund kind of category. I'm not just saying ultra short. There are other categories also which you can look at. Your NJ advisors will be able to guide you in a much better way in terms of where you can keep it. But for those people who are still keeping your money in savings account, waiting for markets to fall, my request and suggestion is you put your money in a debt mutual fund, which is pretty safe, but can give you better returns in your savings account. And as and when the market corrects, you can transfer that money into an equity fund. So, for example, hypothetically, let us assume you have got 10 lakh rupees with you. Okay, you have put it in an ultra short term fund. After 1 month, the market falls from 50,000 to 45,000. So you can transfer 1 lakh rupee from ultra short term fund. So you do a switch from ultra short term to a mid cap or whatever equity fund you want to put. Again, markets correct by another 5,000 points. So 45 becomes 40. You shift another 2 lakh rupees into equity fund. So you do a staggered investment from that ultra short or debt fund. Why I'm insisting on this? Because if the money is lying in your savings account, I can guarantee you that money will be spent. You will do a renovation in your house. कुछ ना कुछ तो हम खर्च कर ही देंगे, खर्च कर देंगे उसको, फिजूल खर्च कर देंगे. We will go on a trip because that money is lying in your account. कुछ तो करना चाहिए ना उस पैसे का. So you will go and spend it. So that is why I'm insisting move it to a mutual fund, which is a debt mutual fund. As and when you feel there's a good time to get into equities, move it into equities. I hope it is clear. So we have understood what different type of customers, different kind of profiles of individuals can do in this current market levels, right? So let us come to the last two slides of my presentation. All of you are already doing this. Okay, you're taking professional help for your investments, which is the right thing to do. Why this is important? Okay, this is the story from Mahabharata. I'm sure everybody knows about this. If you recollect this, when the war is about to begin, before the war is about to begin, Arjuna, the greatest warrior, is full of enthusiasm, full of energy. He wants to fight with the Kauravas, right? But when he goes to the battlefield, he tells Krishna, who is the charioteer, take me to my opponents. मुझे opponents की तरफ लेके जाइए. मुझे भी देखने दो कि मुझसे लड़ने के लिए कौन कौन आया है, right? Let me see who all have come to fight against me. So Krishna takes him there. And the moment he goes there, he sees these are all his relatives, cousin brothers. There's Bhishma Pitama. There is his Acharya. And he comes back. He's emotional now. After he comes back, he's very emotional. Oh my God, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to fight against my own Acharyas. If I kill my Guru, it is the biggest sin that I can do. I'm going to kill my brothers. I don't want to fight this battlefield. And he says, Krishna, let's go away. So somebody who was very enthusiastic, passionate about fighting, suddenly becomes emotional and says, let me go away from the battlefield. Now, this is what happens with investments. It is very easy to start SIP investments, I'm telling you. Let me share you some numbers. Out of 100 investors who start SIPs, after 2 years, only 50% continue their SIPs. बाकी के 50% चले जाते हैं 2 साल के अंदर ही. आते वक्त क्या बोल के आते हैं? Sir, I will do for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. But after within 2 years itself, 50% of them go away. Same story bit of Krishna and Arjuna. So if you move out, who is going to lose the battle? You are going to lose the battle because your investments will not happen. You will not be able to give the best of the best things to your families. So you need a Krishna who is your advisor today from NJ. He will counsel you, will motivate you. He says, भागो मत. Markets में उतार चढ़ाव चलता रहेगा. There is going to be ups and downs in the market. Don't run away from it. Face this battle. Keep on doing your SIP investments. Continue your investments till the time you reach your goal. Right? So this is why it's important to have a coach or an advisor, which already all of you have, because all of us, I said, are emotional. And if I take emotional decisions, I will take the wrong decision. So somebody is there to guide me. Hey, don't do this. Don't redeem. Right? So those are the people who will be able to take you out of these situations in a very comfortable manner. So always have a right advisor. This is my final slide. Very, very powerful slide. This is something which we learned in school. Compound interest. Right? Formula यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है. If you look at the formula, there are three critical elements in this formula. So A stands for my value of investment in the future. P stands for my investment. R is the rate of return that I can expect from my investment. T stands for time period. कितने समय के लिए? Now there are three variables P, R and T. The most important variable here is T, time period. Okay? Now time period is in your control. Yes or no? As an investor, it is in my control कि मैं 5 साल के लिए करूँ, कि 15 साल के लिए करूँ, कि 30 साल के लिए करूँ. P, which is the SIP amount, is also in your control. कि 10,000 का करूँ, कि 5,000 का करूँ, कि 20,000 का करूँ. But R, which is the rate of return, is not in our control. Market is not in our control. So what returns I will get is not in my control. But the problem is most of us tend to focus on R. अच्छा कितना मिल जाएगा इसमें, कितने रिटर्न्स मिल सकते हैं, this is what we focus on. So things which are beyond our control, there's no point focusing on. Instead, focus on things which you have control on, which is your SIP amount and the time period. And if you look at the time period T, it is exponential factor, which is where the compounding effect comes. Over long periods of time, you will have those exponential factors playing out, and you will have so many examples. We have already, you must have heard of so many people creating wealth with simple small investments. That is the power of mutual funds. Okay, so do not withdraw, because if you withdraw, your T goes for a toss, your compounding goes for a toss. Okay, so with that, I conclude my session. Thank you all of you for your time, for your participation. If there are any questions, you can please put it in the Q&A. I will be very happy to try and answer those questions. Okay.
Thank you, Hari sir. Thanks for the wonderful presentation that you shared.
Thank
आपने
you.
बहुत ही सरल भाषा में और सिंपल वे में समझाया कि भाई योर behavior becomes the action and action ultimately leads to the decision. One should avoid instant gratification. Whether you are lucky, unlucky, or smart, if you stay invested, the returns are almost same, and there is nothing to worry about the market or return. And in the end, you also explained that you should focus on T and A, that is time and amount, and rather avoid return where the major focus is, and which is not in our control. So there are a lot of applause for your presentation, and many people have even asked for the presentation if you can share
Okay.
with us. So I will take a few questions that have come. There are some very basic
Sure.
questions, and there are some very specific questions that have been asked. Uh, एक तो जो सबसे सिंपल क्वेश्चन आया है वो ये है कि भाई इस लेवल पे एसआईपी करना चाहिए कि सर लमसम करना चाहिए.
Okay.
What
So
do you suggest?
my personal suggestion is do a SIP. Okay, entering with a lump sum in this market is dangerous because nobody knows. Or the other way, as I discussed when I explained STP, so you put your money in a debt fund. As and when you feel the markets have corrected reasonably, which is a 5%, 8% kind of correction, start transferring the money to equity. उसको staggered investment करिए over the next maybe 3 to 6 months or 12 months. My suggestion is don't do SIP, lump sum investment in this market.
Uh, again, next question is again, one should go for mutual funds or stocks.
Okay. So this is very, very important. If you're very comfortable with stocks, and when I say comfortable, please understand when we do stock investment, essentially you are investing in a business, right? So you need to track what is happening to the business. It is not like what was earlier, that you put your money and just forget about the business, because today things have changed dramatically. There's so much of dynamic activities that is happening. Few industries which were there a few years back no longer exist today. Right? So disruption is happening. So I'm not saying it is dangerous, but if you're comfortable doing all this, if you have the time, you have the information, you have the energy, and you have the patience to do all that, you can still look at stock investment. Uh, I personally suggest for a lot of retail clients, do not have enough time, do not understand too much of what is happening. It is always better to go through a mutual fund route. Okay, so for few select percentage of the population, yes, stock investment does make sense. But again, I would say do a mix of both so that you also diversify. Because as individuals, if I am doing certain stock investment, there's a very high tendency for me to get biased. कि मुझे जो पसंद है मैं वही लूंगा, या मुझे जो समझ आता है मैं मुझे लगता है कि मुझे समझ आ रहा है मैं लूंगा. So there's a very high tendency for people to fail there. So instead, do a mix of both, and both, give it to mutual fund also, do it yourself also if you're comfortable doing it. Okay, just do not follow what people are doing. That everybody is making stock investments on their own does not mean I should also do it. Do I have the capacity? Do I have the time? Which is very, very important for me to look at direct stock investments.
Right, sir. Many of the investors have asked, my funds are giving good returns, so why should I not withdraw the money? And why should I not invest in alternate asset class like real estate and gold?
Okay. So first and foremost, when you look at investments, you need to do asset allocation. When I say asset allocation, you need to have investments in multiple asset classes. Equity is one. When I say equity, I'm also including equity mutual funds. Debt is second. Third is gold. And for few people who have got enough money, can also look at real estate. So at least the three asset class, equity, debt, and gold, I think a lot of us can invest in these three asset classes, and all these three asset classes are available through a mutual fund platform. So I don't even have to look at a different way of investing. All of them are available. So we have equity mutual funds, we have debt mutual funds, we also have gold funds or even gold ETFs. Somebody wants to buy gold units into their account. That is also possible. Real estate is for few people who have got enough capital. They can also do real estate. So this applies to everybody. Asset allocation applies to everybody, and the proportion can change. Okay, so now this proportion is dependent on two parameters primarily. One is the time period of your investment. Two, what is my risk taking capacity? Because I may have a very different risk taking capacity. Divesh might have a very different risk taking capacity. Therefore, it is important for me to sit with an advisor, understand what is my risk taking capacity, basis that decide the allocation. So if somebody has a 20-year time horizon and is also aggressive in terms of the risk appetite, then I can have 75-80% in equities, okay, maybe 10% in debt, and maybe 5 to 10% in gold. So this is how typically the asset allocation should be done. Basis your time period of investment and your risk taking capacity. And I repeat, for majority of retail clients and individual investors, at least these three asset classes, equity, debt, and gold, can be taken through the mutual fund route itself.
Right, sir. Some there are. It seems that many new investors have also joined in, and there are very basic questions from their side, like what is mutual fund, what are the advantages of mutual fund. They've also asked about what is a ELSS fund or what is a debt. So I suggest them to please get in touch with their respective advisors. I think this basic information can be easily explained to them through their advisors. There is
Correct.
a question from retiree crowd. They are asking for suggestion from you that what should they do at this juncture of the market. As you have already suggested, if you are already expecting your retirement in a year or two, so you should definitely go ahead with the booking of the profits. But after further, what should they do? Where should they park their funds, and what SWP strategies they should adopt?
Yes, yes. So it's a very good question, a very pertinent question for retired people, all who are sort of on the verge of getting retired. There is a concept called as SWP in mutual fund, which is systematic withdrawal plan. Now, this is exactly opposite of your SIP. Okay, so what does it mean? So typically, a retired individual, wants regular income after retirement because his income stops, but his expenses will still be there. So to manage his expenses, he wants some stream of regular cash flows or income. The normal traditional way was to put it in a fixed deposit or do a post office monthly income scheme or do a senior citizen savings scheme. And where you get quarterly or monthly interest, which will get accumulated which will get credited to your bank account. Instead of that, what you can do is you put that lump sum amount in a debt mutual fund or a hybrid mutual fund. So hybrid mutual fund is a mutual fund which will invest in both equities and debt. So my strong suggestion is for people who are retired, do not go into pure equity funds because the risk is high and you want more stability in terms of your performance and return. So come to a debt mutual fund or a hybrid mutual fund, put that lump sum amount. So for example, you have a crore rupees, 1 crore rupees with you, put that lump sum in a debt mutual fund or a hybrid. Which fund is suitable? Your advisor can guide you. and from there do a SWP. For example, I need say 30,000 rupees every month to take care of my expenses. So I just fill up an application form for 30,000 rupees every month. That specified date, 30,000 rupees worth of my units will be sold and 30,000 will be credited to my account. So this will ensure continuous stream of income. The biggest advantage that can happen with this SWP is in a traditional investment like FD or POMIS or STSS, at maturity you will get only your principal back. If you put 1 crore rupees, after getting the interest, you will get 1 crore rupees at the end of your maturity. But when you move it to a debt mutual fund or a hybrid mutual fund, there is a potential capital gain also that can happen. So this 1 crore rupees can become say 1 crore 10 lakh rupees after 5 years, etc. I'm just giving you some numbers. Okay, there are no guarantees, but there's a possibility of better capital appreciation, which does not happen in your traditional investment. Two important things to bear in mind when you do SWP is, and when you're coming to debt mutual fund or the hybrid category, please come with at least 3 to 5 years time horizon. Okay, so you could have intermittent volatility in these funds as well, but do not get worried about them. As long as your time horizon is 3 to 5 years, these are pretty safe over a period of time.
Right, sir. There is a question from a salaried client. He's saying कि सर मैं एक सैलरीड क्लाइंट हूँ तो मेरे सैलरी का कितना परसेंटेज ऑफ पैसा मुझे एसआईपी में डालना चाहिए.
Okay, so ideally this is dependent on your goals that you have, कि आपके लाइफ में क्या क्या लक्ष्य हैं, आर्थिक लक्ष्य हैं, उसके हिसाब से आपको निवेश करना चाहिए. बट एक थंब रूल आपको बता देता हूँ. Typically we should try and save 20 to 30% of our income and channelize it into investment. तो अगर मैं 10 लाख कमाता हूँ तो कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि आप कम से कम 20% यानी कि 2 लाख रुपए आप निवेश करते जाइए. So you can do that through SIPs, etc., etc. But again, these are thumb rules, but depend on the goals. अगर मेरे goals बहुत ही नजदीक हैं तो 20% से भी मेरा काम नहीं बनेगा. बट अगर मेरे पास काफी समय है तो 30 साल का समय है, then even small amounts can accumulate and compound over a period of time. So thumb rule is 20-30%. As I said, these are just thumb rule. My sincere suggestion is please speak to your advisor. आपके लाइफ के गोल्स क्या हैं उसको आइडेंटिफाई करिए, कितने समय में ये गोल्स आने वाले हैं, उसके बेसिस पे आप तय करिए कि आप कितना निवेश कर सकते हैं. So for example, somebody is earning 50 lakh rupees, okay, but he is also saving say 40-45%, then he can do that 40% also investments into SIPs.
Right, sir. एक क्वेश्चन सर पीएमएस के ऊपर आया है. ही प्रॉब्ली द इन्वेस्टर इज इन्वेस्टिंग इनटू stocks directly, so he has asked for a suggestion. Should he invest into stocks directly, or should he opt for a PMS strategy?
So again, my answer is that if somebody is comfortable doing it, if you can spend time analyzing businesses, and you're comfortable and confident of doing it, then you can look at doing it from your own. If I cannot do it, but I've got a huge amount of money with me and I want more customized solutions, then you can go to a PMS. So the advantage again with PMS is that you get professional investments, that can happen. Two, what happens is that unlike a mutual fund, you can have certain concentrated bets, because in a mutual fund, a fund manager is not allowed to invest more than 10% in one stock. But in the PMS, the fund manager can invest if his conviction is very strong. He can go to 20%, 30% also in a particular stock, which again at an individual level, I may or may not be able to do. So again, from a professional management perspective, PMS also makes sense. But if you're comfortable, confident of doing it, again, my suggestion is if you have got a huge corpus, and something what a lot of people do these days is that, if I have got a crore of rupees, I give 75 lakhs to the PMS guy and 25 lakhs I keep it with myself, and I do my own investments with 25 lakhs, give 75 to the PMS fund manager. This is also something that you can work out.
Right, sir. Thank you. एक क्वेश्चन ये है कि सर मैंने 3 लाख रुपए डाले थे और और मैं पिछले शायद 9-10 साल से इन्वेस्टेड हूँ और 3 लाख का आज अच्छा वैल्यूएशन बढ़ गया है, 15 लाख करीब हो गया है, तो क्या मुझे रिडीम करना चाहिए?
ओके, सो वापस वही है कि अगर आपने उसको कोई लक्ष्य के हिसाब से डाला है, तो जब तक आपके लक्ष्य हासिल नहीं होते तो आप उसको विड्रॉ मत करिए। अगर आपका पैसा अच्छा बन गया है, जैसे मेरे स्लाइड में भी सजेस्ट किया था, तो आप उसको स्विच करिए टू ए डेट म्यूचुअल। बिकॉज पैसा आप रिडीम करोगे, अकाउंट में आएगा, वो पैसा आपका 15 लाख जो खर्च होने वाला है, वो गारंटीड है, राइट। तो उससे अच्छा आप उस 15 लाख, आपको डर लग रहा है, तो वो पैसा निकाल के डेट म्यूचुअल फंड में रखिए, बिकॉज उसमें एटलीस्ट आपको कुछ ग्रोथ तो मिलेगा, और इंपॉर्टेंट वो पैसा खर्च नहीं होगा। और फिर मार्केट वापस करेक्ट हो जाता है तो आप दोबारा से इसको स्विच करके इक्विटी में डाल सकते हैं। आई वुड सजेस्ट दैट वे इंस्टेड ऑफ डूइंग ए कंप्लीट रिडेम्पशन।
So that was all, sir, for today's
Sure.
session. So once again, we thank you very much for the wonderful session, and you were able to answer most of the questions in a very open and specific manner. So thank you very much for that. We thanks all the investors for joining in and taking out the time for today's session. हम आभार व्यक्त करना चाहेंगे अपने सभी एडवाइजर्स को भी जो भी इस सेशन से जुड़े हैं कि आपने सेशन के लिए अपने इन्वेस्टर्स को एडवाइस किया, और याद दिलाना चाहेंगे और रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे अपने सभी इन्वेस्टर्स को, हमारे ये सेशन हर शनिवार को होते रहते हैं जिसमें सब एमिनेंट स्पीकर्स आते हैं और अपना नॉलेज शेयरिंग करते हैं, और अलग अलग टॉपिक पे इस पे बातें होती रहती है। तो हम आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे कि हमारे सभी सेशन को आप अटेंड कीजिए। अगर किसी कारण से आपको किसी शनिवार का या किसी प्रेजेंटेशन का लिंक नहीं मिला है, तो यू कैन ऑलवेज गेट बैक टू योर advisor and ask for the link to attend the seminar. So once again, thanking Mr. Hariharan for a wonderful session, and
Thank you.
everybody for joining. That will
Thank you, all of you.
conclude our
Thank you for
session.
your time. Thank you, Divejji, for organizing this. I hope by this time you know what is to be done to buy or buy. Now I am saying bye bye. Thank you, all of you. Good night. Have a good weekend.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.